Bucs fans, you can say here that this is the calm before the storm, or you can say that is the calm before the war. On Sunday, we're going to have a battle between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Philadelphia Eagles. It is going to be a battle of two undefeated teams, of course, and only one of these two teams can exit Raymond James Stadium with a victory and proceed to go 4-0 on the season. One of them are going to suffer, of course, their first loss of the season. I'm going to give you guys a game preview, all the important information you need to know entering week number 4. Also, injury updates for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll supply that to you guys. As well as my keys to the game. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do these 3 things, I think they come out Sunday with a victory. And lastly, I'm going to give you guys all my NFL picks for the entire week. My picks for week number 4 across all the NFL games. Slivon's picks as well. All that and more on this episode of Fear the Bay. Bucs fans, welcome back to another episode of Fear the Bay, where your support makes all other 31 teams fear the Bay. I'm your host, Daniel Morales, and your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Man, they're 3-0. They're 3-0 for the very first time since 2005. Last time they were 3-0, they were wearing the number 30 patch on their chest, celebrating the 30th anniversary of this ball team, of this football program. And now they're wearing the 50th anniversary patch, and they're 3-0 again. So, history often repeats itself. I'm a big history guy. History often repeats itself, and you saw it here 20 years later for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Now, we have a very tough matchup for both teams coming up week number 4 for the Philadelphia Eagles and for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But before we get into that game, let's talk about the wild week 3 game against the New York Jets. So this was a game that started off extremely sloppy, extremely undisciplined. I believe you had 14 penalties in total for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but there were 5 holding penalties in the very first 13 offensive plays. You can't do that in the NFL. You can't do that and expect to win a ball game in the NFL. But somehow, this Buccaneers team was able to gain a significant lead over the New York Jets as the game progressed. But you can't play like that. So I know that the offensive line, of course, was all, shaked up. You had Elijah Klein making his very first start in the NFL also, starting at left guard. You had center Graham Barnes playing left tackle again for another week in a row. We'll see if he's playing left tackle, if he's back at center this week. But he's playing left tackle. You had Ben Bredesen playing center, and you had Luke Haggard playing right guard, making his first career start in the NFL as well. And he had right tackle Charlie Heck. So this was not, of course, your original unit. Whenever you get the injury bug, you hope that it doesn't hit your offensive line. And this year, it has hit the offensive line. We know that Cody Mauch is out for the entire year. Luke Gadecki is going to be out for at least the next, in total, 4 games. So 3 more games after this, maybe. At least. But again, it's very undisciplined football. It's very sloppy football. You saw after every play, it felt like there was laundry on the football field. And this was for the first few drives of the game. And, you didn't know if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were going to be able to clean it up. But they found a way to clean it up, and they started playing better. But you cannot play this sloppy, undisciplined football and expect to win ball games like that, especially when you're going up against some of these top teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, who they're going to be seeing in week number 4. Now, why did the New York Jets somehow rally back into this game and make this a close ball game in the final few seconds, the final few minutes of this game? Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense only allowed 6 points throughout the first 3 quarters of the game. And then in the fourth quarter, the New York Jets scored 21 unanswered points. So they started playing, this is why I believe that the New York Jets were able to rally back. This New York Jets team just picked apart this Buccaneers defense in the fourth quarter. Tyrod Taylor, the veteran, filling in for Justin Fields, who had a concussion. He was just able to pick apart this defense. And why? Why was he able to pick apart this defense? Well, this defense started to play too comfortable. They felt like they had the game in the bag, and they just started playing too comfortable. They took their foot off the gas. You can never do that in the NFL, but they took their foot off of the gas. They started to play this soft, comfortable, zone defense. They didn't look like they were given the same effort that they gave throughout the first 2 quarters of the ball game. And Tyrod Taylor, again, the veteran, just able to pick apart this team and rally this team back into the game in the final few minutes. And of course, also you have the blocked field goal attempt by Will McDonald. He was able to block the Chase McLaughlin field goal attempt. That was a true Troy Polamalu flashback move. He just jumps over the protection for Chase McLaughlin, able to block the kick, bring it all the way back and score for the New York Jets. But here's the thing. And real quick, Chase is back, all right? Chase is back. He went 5 for 6 in total. I don't blame the block field goal attempt on him. That was the protection's fault. But Chase is back. He looks like the normal Chase McLaughlin that we come to expect to see every single week. We've seen over the past few years also. Chase McLaughlin is back. So they block the field goal and they make it a true ball game at the end. They go up and they have 27 points now. But Baker Mayfield was able to get the ball back, of course, after that, and lead this offense with the play calling, of course, of Josh Grizzard, lead this team down the field for another game-winning drive to set up Chase McLaughlin for another kick, and this one he ended up making, of course. But when Baker Mayfield went out there, I can't speak for all Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans out there, just speaking for myself here, but when Baker Mayfield went out there in the ball game, and he only had about 2 minutes left on the clock, I didn't feel nervous. I feel like we've seen this in week number 1, of course. We've seen this in week number 2. I feel like Baker Mayfield, if you had to pick one quarterback in the league, in the NFL, to go down the field and score for you in the final few minutes of the game, who are you going to trust most? I think right now in 2025, you got to go with Baker Mayfield. It feels like he just has ice in his veins. The pressure doesn't get to him. Pressure either makes diamonds or it bursts pipes. For Baker Mayfield, man, It's making diamonds, dude. He's been able to go down the field the final 3 games and set this team up for victories week and week and week after week. It's been amazing to watch, He now has 6 touchdowns on the season, 0 interceptions. He is truly in the MVP conversation. And I think if he wins this week, if he leads this team to a victory in week number 4, I think you see that chatter, that MVP chatter surrounding Baker Mayfield just expand and, sprout even more and grow and blossom even more than it's already happening. But again, I didn't feel nervous when he was out there. He was able to. Mike Evans went down, of course. We know that. He's not going to be playing this game. We'll talk about injuries in the next segment pretty soon here. But he went down, and of course, every year it feels like Mike Evans has some kind of hamstring injury, and that's what happened again here. We'll talk about his injury later on, however. But Mike goes down, and who steps up for this ball team? Emeka Egbuka, the first-round rookie, dude. He looked amazing out there. Now, you have the concentration catch where it hits his hands, it bounces up, he's able to grab it again. In my book, that's a catch. I'm working on the right sideline for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's a catch. I saw left foot, right foot. The officials didn't. It's inside the final 2 minutes. Todd Bowles can't challenge the play. The officials chose not to challenge. I think that's a catch. But no matter what, they wrote it not a catch. They wrote it incompletion. But no matter what, Baker Mayfield and Sterling Shepard and Emeka Egbuka and all the rest of the guys were able to set up this team to go down the field and win in the final few minutes of the ball game. Chase McLaughlin kicking the final field goal, making sure that the lead increases. The Buccaneers won 29-27, but ultimately, the Buccaneers, again, another week in a row, showed resilience, showed a fight. But you cannot play soft zone, comfortable defense and think that you're going to be able to close out the game by doing that. Again, I thought this team was going to be able to take Baker Mayfield out of the game because they had such an incredible lead and just put Teddy Bridgewater in there, knowing that the next week you're going to have the Philadelphia Eagles in, and you're banged up and all this, so sitting some of your starters and putting some of your backups in. But because of the fact that this defense allowed Tyrod Taylor and the New York Jets offense, led by Tanner Engstrand, the offensive coordinator, to come back into this ball game, they couldn't do that. It was another dramatic win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But again, you cannot do that. You can't start playing soft, comfortable defense when you're facing a team like the Philadelphia Eagles that they're going to be seeing this week. So overall, they got the win in week number 3. But again, there's things you can work on. There's always things, you rather win and learn from your mistakes while you're winning rather than lose and learn from your mistakes that way. But we're going to talk about this. Let's get to this Philadelphia Eagles game, man, because this is going to be a very tough matchup for both teams. I know a lot of Eagles fans, I keep reading their comments, and even some of their Eagles reporters, they feel very confident about this game. But I don't know. I think this game can go either way, and I'll explain that in the next segment here. So let's get to the full game preview for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who will be facing the Philadelphia Eagles in week number 4. All right, so let's get into this game preview for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's week 4. You have the reigning Super Bowl champions Philadelphia Eagles coming into Raymond James Stadium, coming to Tampa. The Buccaneers are playing at home for the second week in a row. And they're going to have to, Philadelphia Eagles, they're going to have to find a way to get used to this Tampa heat. It's very, very hot outside. Last week, there was one point in the game that the heat index, I believe, was 130 degrees. Extremely hot, something that these Philadelphia Eagles players are not used to. So what's their plan to get acclimated to the heat very, very quickly? Well, they believe that if they come on Friday, a day earlier, so most times when you're traveling to an away game, you arrive on a Saturday if it's a Sunday ball game. And they think that if they arrive one day earlier on Friday, that it'll give them extra time to get used to it, mentally prepared, physically prepared to deal with this Tampa heat. Let me tell you something. As a man who has lived in Florida for the majority of his life, hey, dude, you're not going to get used to the heat by arriving one day earlier, okay? So even Vic Fangio and Cam Jurgens, the center for the Philadelphia Eagles, has talked about this. You just can't, it's a mental thing. You can't get used to the heat by coming early by one day. It's just something you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to be mentally tough. Vic Fangio has talked about the plan for this Philadelphia Eagles defense. Their plan is to not allow Baker Mayfield and Josh Broussard, this offense, to have 8, 10, 12-yard drives that would gas out the Philadelphia Eagles defense, especially those big guys up front, which we're going to really talk about pretty soon. But that's their plan. Get the Buccaneers offense off the field as quickly as they can. Make sure their defense isn't gassed. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is going to come down really big time in terms of time of possession. So the Buccaneers offense can stay on the field, continue to lead drives, continue to move the chains, to continue to move the ball down the field. They're going to gas out this defense for the Philadelphia Eagles, who, again, are not used to this Tampa heat. And that is an advantage that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have at their disposal. The Tampa heat, this is something that they practice in every single day when they go out and practice. Besides, in training camp, one night practice. Every day they're outside in their at Advent Health training facility, practicing outside in this Florida heat. So they're ready for it. They're acclimated for it. You can never really get used to it, of course. But again, like Vic Fangio says, there's no magic pill that can get you prepared to play in the heat like this. You're just going to have to go out there. You got to be mentally tough. All right, so for the Philadelphia Eagles, there's a little bit of a controversy with their offensive coordinator, Kevin Pachulo. So after the game, A.J. Brown, their wide receiver one, said that he felt like they were playing too conservative on offense. So it was a shot at Kevin Pachulo, the new offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Kellen Moore was the offense coordinator last year, who he helped this Philadelphia Eagles team win a Super Bowl in 2024. He is now, of course, the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, and Kevin Pachulo goes up from pass game coordinator to offensive coordinator. So A.J. Brown, he talked about, you see what happens, for example, I'm paraphrasing, but you see what happens when I get the ball. He talks about the conservative play calling is why they weren't able to close out this game earlier, okay? And then quarterback Jalen Hurts, he kind of backed his wide receiver instead of backing his offensive coordinator and he said that he felt like they were playing to prevent losing rather than they were playing to prevent to win the ball game. So they were playing, to prevent a loss rather than playing to win. So they were taking shots at their offensive coordinator. Again, this is just like Josh Broussard. This is going to be his 4th time ever in the NFL calling plays, at this NFL level. But again, they're taking shots at their offensive coordinator, and they're winning, but they're taking shots. And I want to say real quick, this Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver core, of course, when they're healthy, you got wide receiver Mike Evans, you got Jalen McMillan, you got Chris Godwin Jr., who might be back this week. We will see. You got, of course, the newcomer, Mecca Buka. You never hear these guys, especially when they win, but you never hear them publicly, at least, say, you see what happens when I get the ball more, or taking shots at their offensive coordinator. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers luckily have no divas on their wide receiver core. They have guys who, there's only one football, of course, and they don't care who really getting the ball. Deep down you do want the ball, but they don't make this ever public. And they're selfless guys who just want to have this team win, want to be in a position to win ball games, want to be in a position to go into a deep playoff push, want to be in a position to win a Super Bowl, of course. So kudos to the wide receiver core of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for always being selfless, at least never making this public, taking shots at your offense coordinator, demanding the ball more, anything like that publicly. They have a very special group with Evans, Godwin, Emeka Buka, and Jalen McMillan, and even Sterling Shepard, who's second right now in receiving yards for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. All right, but again, I think because of the fact that the offense coordinator, Kevin Pachulo, has had a few shots taken at him this week, I think you're going to see the Philadelphia Eagles attempt early on to have a more aggressive offensive game plan and he's going to make a very concerted effort, I believe, to get A.J. Brown the ball early and often. I think that's something you're going to see here. get his star wide receiver the ball so he's not complaining about, your play calling after the game. So I think they're going to try to go to him early and often. So that's going to be Zion McCollum's duty. If he's moving around, it could be Zion McCollum or Jamel Dean, but whoever's on him, that's going to be their duty to make sure they minimize his impact on the ball game. All right, also in the run game for the Philadelphia Eagles, they want to find a way to make their running game more efficient. So Saquon Barkley is a great running back, if not one of the best running backs in the league, or the best running back in the league. And he's running behind the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, which is, in my opinion, I think they're the best in the league. I think the Buccaneers are up there close when they have a healthy offensive line. But you have Jordan Mailata at left guard. You have left tackle. You have left guard Landon Dickerson. You have Cam Jurgens at the center. You have at right tackle. You have Lane Johnson, who Nick Sirianni says he's the best player he's ever been around. So he has a lot of guys praising him. He's a very good offensive lineman, very good right tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles, one of the best right tackles in the league. Their only weakness is at right guard Tyler Steen, who the jury's still out on him. Let him play, the full season and see how he performed. But this is a very good offensive line that Saquon Barkley is running behind. And he was able to, I believe he's passed 2K yards last year. I believe he had 2015 total rushing yards last year, which is insane for a running back. That is incredible. But they want to find a way to make the run game more efficient. So in total, throughout the first 3 weeks, he has 58 carries, which ties him for second most in the league. He has a total of 194 rushing yards, which is 13th in the league. He has 2 touchdowns, which ties him for 11th most in the league. And then this is a bad part, though. He's averaging 3.3 yards per carry, which has him ranked at 122nd in the league. So he has the second most carries, but he has the 122nd, best yards per carry in the league at 3.3 yards. So I think, again, they're going to have a more aggressive game plan, try to make a concerted effort to get A.J. Brown the ball. And then in the run game, I think they're going to try to find a way to get Saquon Barkley the ball. They were giving him the ball a lot, but get him to get the ball and to be more effective in the run game. Let's see what their game plan is, but they're not going up against an easy defense for the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers defense in 2019, thank you to the Buccaneers communications group, since 2019, under the leadership of Todd Bowles on this defense, the Buccaneers have been one of the best, if not the best team in the league against the run. So they have the best rushing yards per game allowed, rushing yards in general allowed, rushing yards per run allowed. All these rushing stats, they're number one in the league for the most part. So you have Vita Vea in the middle of that defensive line, and he's going to do his best concerted effort to stop the run, be a bulldozer for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line. So they're going to try to get the run game to be more efficient. I don't know if they're going to have any luck going up against Vita Vea and this defense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And also shout out to Hassan Reddick. He had an incredible 4th and 1 stop. The New York Jets were running on 4th and 1, and he was able to stop that run. He had a great tackle for Bucs fans. Want to know how you can help this channel, Fear the Bay, continue to grow and expand? Well, all you have to do are 3 simple things, and they're absolutely free. And what are those things, you might be asking? Well, like, subscribe, and comment. Like, subscribe, and comment. When you do that, when you engage with the content, what happens is YouTube's algorithm continues to push this content out to more phenomenal Bucs fans like yourself. So please, if you have not done so already, like, subscribe, and comment. Those things help me out tremendously, and they help our channel, they help our community continue to grow and grow and grow and expand to brand new heights. Let's get back to the video. We definitely do not want to miss that. All right, so let's talk about this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense versus the Philadelphia Eagles defense. So for the Buccaneers, they might get Tristan Wirfs back, and if they do, you're probably going to have him back at left tackle. I've seen, talk about, do you put him at left tackle? Do you put him at right tackle? I think you put him back in his position. Enough with the shakeups on the offensive line. I think you put him back at left tackle. You put Ben Bredesen back at left guard. You put Graham Barn from left tackle back to center, and you have that left and middle back to normalcy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line unit. Right guard, we'll see who's out there. Is it Luke Haggard? Is it Elijah Klein? We'll see what happens with that. And at right tackle, you're probably going to see Charlie Heck out there again. And for wide receivers, Mike Evans, he's going to be out. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. He's going to be out for the next 2, 3, possibly 4 games. The Buccaneers decided not to put him on IR because they want to see, can he come back earlier than missing those 4 games that he would have had to miss if he was placed on IR. You might get Chris Godwin Jr. back, but he's dealing with, coming back. He's not even in football shape, 100% football shape. What is he going to look like out there? He's going to have to take off the rust. So Emeka Egbuka, the first-round rookie out of Ohio State, who Todd Bowles has said himself, he doesn't look like a rookie. They don't see him as a rookie out there. He's playing like a veteran. He's playing like a Chris Godwin Jr. clone. He looks super good. I think he can carry that load of being the wide receiver one for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. And for the defense of the Eagles, there's a lot of talk about, this defense being so spectacular, this whole team being spectacular. Now, let's go position by position, basically, okay? The DBs, they don't necessarily scare me. They have a young defensive backfield. They have Makuba at safety. He is the rookie from Texas. They have Reed Blankenship back there. This is going to be his fourth season in the league. He relied on Marcus Epps, safety, on, coming into his own and leaning on him all the time. But the defensive backfield doesn't necessarily scare me. You have Quinyon Mitchell, who is a good young corner. This is his second year in the league. He's coming into his own, but he doesn't necessarily pick off the ball. His thing is pass breakups. So even back in high school, his junior year, he led the nation in with the most pass breakups in the entire country. In his senior year, he had the second most pass breakups in the entire country. So that's always been his thing. He doesn't necessarily intercept the ball, create turnovers that way, but he's going to break up the passes, have those pass defenses, and impact the game in that manner with his coverage plus his PBUs. You have at nickelback, you have Cooper DeJean, who is a very versatile player for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's the perfect chess piece for Vic Fangio. You could play him at any of the two safety positions. You could play him at outside corner. You could play him at nickel like they have him currently this year. You can put him at punt returner. So he's a very versatile player for this Philadelphia Eagles defense. But the defensive backfield doesn't scare me. The edge rushers also, they don't scare me as well. So last week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got lucky by having Jermaine Johnson not be able to play in that game, and he's one of their two for the New York Jets with Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson. Those are their two premier edge rushers. For the Philadelphia Eagles, this week, they're going to be out Nolan Smith Jr. So Nolan Smith Jr. is their top edge rush guy. He's going to be out this week. He's dealing with a tricep injury. They place him on IR, so he's going to miss at least the next 4 weeks. On the opposite side, and who's going to fill his spot real quick? You have Zadarius Smith, who they recently signed a few weeks ago. He's 32, 33 at this point. He had 9 sacks last year in 2024. He can still create great sack production for his, he's aging, but he can still get sacks for a defense, whatever team he's on. Opposite of Zadarius Smith, they're going to have Jaelix Hunt out there, who he's a young guy, seeing what he can become, and he's a developing pass rusher. But those pass rushers don't scare me. The inside linebackers, they're pretty good with Campbell and Bond out there. But really what scares me for this game here, I think this is what the game is going to come down to, is the defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles and the offensive line for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that is what the game is going to come down to. You have Jordan Davis, who, again, he's 6'6", 336 pounds. The Eagles love this guy. They talk about him like he's going to be the next Aaron Donald. They love him. He's in, Nick Sirianni says, the best shape of his entire life. He's walking around the training facility with his shirt off. He feels confident. He's lost a lot of weight. He had a joke a few days ago that he has a date at 9 o'clock. Now with a lady, he's going to have a date with the Peloton bike. So he's been working really hard, eating correctly. He talked about Rome wasn't built in a day. So his first 2 years in the league, his snap count was less than 50% of the defensive snaps. I believe last year his snap count was around in the 40s. I believe 42, 47%, somewhere around there. But now his snap count is 70%, north of 70%. So he's playing out there. He talked about how he feels really good physically, but mentally also. He's a guy who doesn't just anymore come on first and second downs. They can put him out there in third downs as well. And he feels like he can provide a big impact for this Philadelphia Eagles defense. So he's a guy who's coming into his own. The guys love him. The coaching staff loves him. I think he's going to be, a big problem for the Buccaneers offensive line, depending on who's out there this week. Not depending on who's out there. I think he's going to be a problem for this offensive line for the Buccaneers. You have him. You have Jalen Carter, who I'm not a fan of Jalen Carter, the person. I think there's too many problems there, but we can't ignore the fact that Jalen Carter, the football player, is a good football player. He's going to be a bully on that defensive line. We saw week number 1 him get ejected from the game after spitting on Dak Prescott in the first few seconds of him being out there on that drive. He's a bully on that defensive line. I think he's going to be a problem, of course, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line. But one guy who doesn't get talked about enough is a guy who was born in Nigeria, Mojo Ojomo. So Mojo Ojomo, he is a guy who last year, and I love doing my deep dive on this guy, man. He has a great story to himself. But last year, he doesn't get talked about. So you get Jordan Davis gets all the love, and Jalen Carter gets all the love also. But Mojo Ojomo, he doesn't get all the love, man. But last year in the league, he had the second highest pass rush win rate in the entire league, only behind Chris Jones, who had 0.2%. So he had 18.7% pass rush win rate. Chris Jones had an 18.9 pass rush win rate. And Chris Jones, we know, is one of the best defensive linemen in the league for the Chiefs. Man, but he can generate pressure. So he can't get sacks. That's the big thing, that he can't get sacks. He had his first career sack in week number 2 against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. He cannot generate sacks. That's not his thing, but he's going to create pressure. He's going to get Baker Mayfield moving his feet. He's going to get him off balance. Baker Mayfield might have to scramble around. But I think, again, this game is going to come down to how can the Buccaneers offensive line deal with that scary, if I may say, scary defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles. And if they can hold up, I'm not scared about the edge rushers. I think Baker Mayfield and the wide receivers, even Mike Evans down, can go up against those DBs for the Philadelphia Eagles. But it's going to come down to, again, this defensive line for the Eagles versus the offensive line for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if they can protect Baker Mayfield, I think they can have success in this game and advance to 4. And all right, let's get into the injury report for this game, this week 4 matchup. So for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we know Mike Evans is going to be out. He had the hamstring injury. He's out this game. Chris Godwin Jr., there is a possibility, of course, again, that he could be back in this game. He could make his return in 2025, playing for the first time, his 2025 season debut. Remember, he had that dislocated ankle injury all the way back last year in week number 7, going up against the Baltimore Ravens, and he's been fighting to recover. Remember when he was getting carted off the field, if you read his lips, if you were able to read what he was saying there, he's like, man, back to work. And he's been working hard at recovering, trying to get back on the football field. And Todd Bowles says that him and Tristan Wirfs, left tackle, who are both questionable this week, they're trending in the right direction to return this week for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If there's any matchup that you want them back for, it's this matchup against the reigning Super Bowl defending champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. So Mike Evans will be out. The only other guy who is 100% out is Christian Izien. He's out this week. He's dealing with a quad injury. He did not practice this entire week. You have Logan Hall. So Logan Hall is a guy who last week he suffered a minor growing injury. The report was that he is day-to-day. He's questionable to return in this game in week number 4 to come back and play out there in this game. Baker Mayfield, he's been a bit banged up over the last 2 weeks, ever since that Houston Texans game. After the game, he was limping a bit back in the locker room. He's questionable. He'll play, I believe. He's such a tough guy. I think this guy will be out there playing. Levante David was taken off the injury report. Charlie Heck, same thing. Charlie Heck was both of them, Levante David and Charlie Heck, were dealing with knee injuries this week, but they've been taken off the injury report. They will be playing this week. And for the Philadelphia Eagles, there's only one guy who is out. The rest of the players have been taken off the injury report, and that's Adoree Jackson. He is doubtful to play in this game, and that most likely means that he is out for this ball game. So Adoree Jackson, their CB2, is doubtful. That's the only major injury besides, again, Nolan Smith Jr., who we talked about before. He's out for that game with a tricep injury. Also this week, Ko Keith, tight end, he broke his lower leg. So he's going to be on season-ending IR. His season is unfortunately done for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But overall, the big news, Chris Godwin Jr., Tristan Wirfs, this is possibly their season debut. The expectation looks like is they're going to be able to return back on the football field out there, okay? Chris Godwin Jr., he's out there, but again, I don't think he's going to make much of an impact in week number 4 in his first game back. I think there's going to be a lot of rust on him again. And I just don't know how much of an impact he's going to make, but it's just good to see him and Tristan Wirfs back out there. Tristan Wirfs talked about there's no more pain. He's not feeling any more pain in his leg and his knee. He feels pain-free, so that is a good thing that he's feeling pain-free. You just want to see how the swelling for both these guys, how that progresses into Saturday and Sunday morning and in the pregame warm-ups, how that all looks. But it looks like, again, Todd Bowles says they're trending in the right direction. So finally, some positive injury news for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have been plagued with injuries this entire year. Kalijah Cansey, Luke, Cody Malk, all these guys, David Walker in the beginning of the training camp in day number 3. Finally, some positive injury news for all the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans out there. It looks like Wirfs and Godwin Jr. will be back out there on the football field this week. But we'll see exactly, but it looks like they're trending in the right direction again. Let's get now to the keys to the game for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, keys to the game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If the Buccaneers do these 3 things, I think they come out of week number 4 undefeated. They remain undefeated. This is a huge test for both teams. Todd Bowles talked about this again. Winning isn't going to make them. Losing isn't going to break this team, okay? But this is a huge test. This is a game that we might see a rematch down the line in the playoffs, maybe in the NFC Championship game. We never know, but this is a huge test for both teams, but especially for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With all their injuries, with how banged up they are, the Philadelphia Eagles are an overall healthy team. Besides the injuries to Nakobe Dean and to Nolan Smith Jr., for the most part, and Adoree Jackson, they're an overall healthy team when you compare them to a team like Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have been riddled and just plagued with injuries this entire year. But again, this feels like a matchup that even with all those injuries, the Buccaneers are going to be able to stay in. They're going to be able to stay close in and possibly pull out the win if they do these 3 things. So, first off, the key to the game, it goes off of what I was talking earlier in the show. You got to protect Baker Mayfield. The only thing on this defense that scared me for the Philadelphia Eagles, if I was Josh Grizzard, what's keeping me up at night? It's that defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles. The offensive line for the Buccaneers needs to protect Baker Mayfield the best they can going up against Jordan Davis, Moto Ojomo, Jalen Carter out there. They need to make sure they protect. The edge rushers don't scare me much, but those 3 guys, they do. Again, protect Baker Mayfield. Give him enough time to execute this offense, this Josh Grizzard offense. Give him time. Give him a few seconds out there to be able to read, go through his progressions, hit his target. No Mike Evans out there this week. Mike Evans, when he's out there, he dictates coverage. A lot of times they double team him, put a safety his way, and that frees up guys like Emeka Egbuka to have one-on-one opportunities. Chris Godwin Jr. out there, but I wouldn't double team a just returning Chris Godwin Jr. who is going to be, taking off that rust off of him, as the season progresses. He needs reps to get fully back into the regular Chris Godwin Jr. that we have come to expect. But Emeka Egbuka, this is going to be the Emeka Egbuka show out there. I think he's going to do fine. I think he's going to be able to take that load on his shoulders and do well. But again, you got to protect Baker Mayfield. That's what this game, for me, that's what this game comes down to. Protect Baker Mayfield. Give him enough time to execute the offense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if they do that, that's the biggest key to the game for me, man. If they do that, they come out with a victory in week number 4. That is my belief. All right, second key to the game. You got to play disciplined football. We can't have the sloppy football that we saw out there last week. Again, 5 holding penalties in the first 13 offensive plays. You cannot play sloppy against a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, who are going to play you tough. They're going to give you everything they have for a full 60-minute game. You cannot have dumb plays. You can't have holding penalties. You can't have false starts. You can't have face mask penalties. You can't have offsides penalties. Yaya Diaby had one last week, almost had 2 of them, okay? You got to play disciplined football on offense, defense, and on special teams, okay? And talking about special teams, this is my final key to the game. So every week I've kind of had a special teams key to the game. Last week it was focused on Chase McLaughlin. Week before also focused on Chase McLaughlin. But Chase McLaughlin looks like he's back. We got to see that continue. But he looks like he's back. Remember, I didn't want the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to have a tryout kicker. I was going to remain loyal if I was Jason Light and Todd Bowles. I wanted to remain loyal to Chase McLaughlin because he's shown throughout the past few years that he is an accurate kicker for this ball club. They did that. They stayed loyal. They didn't bring in a tryout kicker, which maybe would have messed up his mind a bit more, put him in a bit of a more, mentally low position. Because again, for a kicker, when you're missing these kicks, it's a very, very mental game. It's just kind of you out there. You're the only kicker. You're the only guy. That's your job. Just kick in the field goal post. Make sure you make those field goals. That is your job. And when you don't do that successfully, there's a lot of heat and a lot of pressure that goes on you. So play disciplined football, protect Baker Mayfield, and on special teams, you got to protect kicker Chase McLaughlin, and you got to protect punter Riley Dixon so they don't get their punts blocked. We saw a blocked punt in week number 2 when the Buccaneers were facing the Houston Texans. They blocked that punt. And last week, we saw the New York Jets be able to come back into the ball game. Why? Because they were able to block the field goal. One of the reasons they were able to block the field goal with Chase McLaughlin. So the protection unit for the special teams, you got to have good punts. I think Riley Dixon hasn't done too great of a job. I was really high on Riley Dixon going into the season. So far, he hasn't been able to pin teams back there in the 20 that as many times as I thought he was going to be able to do. He has a good leg. It just looks like he's not performing to the level I expected him to. Chase McLaughlin again is back. The return game has been a bit quiet since the first game of the season with Cam Johnson winning NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. But you got to protect Chase McLaughlin. Make sure he's able to get the kickoff without it being blocked. And same thing with Riley Dixon. Last week, how did the Philadelphia Eagles win? Well, it was Jordan Davis, again, blocking the field goal attempt of the LA Rams and being able to lead the Philadelphia Eagles down the field with the ball and score the touchdown and close out the game. So again, the Philadelphia Eagles put Jordan Davis out there, on special teams. They put Jalen Carter out there on special teams as well. On the other side too, Nick Sirianni, make sure you're pointing that out this week. They put Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata out there on the special teams unit as well. So they have their top guys playing special teams, going out there protecting, these special teams units, or trying to block and impact the kicker or the punter out there. So again, protect Baker Mayfield. All right. You got to play disciplined football, no sloppy penalties, because you can't do that against a Super Bowl contender team or a Super Bowl, defending team like the Philadelphia Eagles. And make sure you protect Chase McLaughlin, the kicker, and Riley Dixon, the punter. Make sure that they're able to get off their kicks cleanly without them being blocked, because that can change the momentum of the game and change the outcome of the game. Let's get now to our Week 4 picks. So each and every week, me and Adam Slivon, you can go follow Adam Slivon at Adam Lives On, Adam LIVSON on X and Instagram as well. We've been competing. We've been going head to head in these matchups. So we're trying to see who can have the better overall record, predicting who's going to be the winners of each NFL game throughout the entire season. So far, for the past 2 weeks, we've been tied. Right now, we're tied at 36-13. And this is going to be a pretty quick prediction, a run through here, because we agree on every single game besides one. And I'll say that one for last year, okay? So you have the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. That was the Thursday night football game. We know the outcome of that one. We both had the Seattle Seahawks winning that game, and they ended up winning that game. So for the Minnesota Vikings versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, we both have the Steelers winning that game. Washington Commanders, last week goes Marcus Mariota out there. Jaden Daniels a bit injured. They're facing the Atlanta Falcons, who benched Michael Penix Jr., put in Kirk Cousins at quarterback one there last week. Poor performance, got Mike Penix benched there. We'll see how they perform in week number 4. But we both have the Commanders winning over the Atlanta Falcons. New Orleans Saints versus the Buffalo Bills. I don't know anybody who would pick the New Orleans Saints to win this game. There could be an upset. That's why football is so fun any given Sunday, right? But we both have the Buffalo Bills winning that game. Cleveland Browns, who put out a victory last week against the Green Bay Packers, they're facing the Detroit Lions. We both have the Detroit Lions in that game. Tennessee Titans versus the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans haven't been as good as a lot of people expect them to be, including myself. But me and Adam have the Houston Texans winning that game. The Carolina Panthers, who had a great game, 30-0 against the Atlanta Falcons last week. They're facing the New England Patriots in Foxborough. We both have the Patriots winning that game. The LA Chargers versus the New York Giants. The Giants made a quarterback change. They're going with the rookie over Russell Wilson. We both have the Chargers and Justin Herbert getting that win there. The Indianapolis Colts, who are off to a hot 3-0 start with Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback. They're facing the LA Rams. We have both taken the LA Rams to win that game. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers have remained undefeated, even Mac Jones being the starter. We are both taking the San Francisco 49ers to win that game there. You have the Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Man, the Chiefs have gone up against some very tough teams. The Ravens as well. Some very tough matchups throughout the first few weeks of the season. It doesn't get any easier here. This could be an AFC Championship preview game. We both take the Baltimore Ravens in this game over the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, you have the Chicago Bears versus the Raiders. We're both taking the Bears, Caleb Williams and the Bears. I'm not a huge fan of Caleb Williams, but I think they get the win here over Geno Smith and the Raiders. We have the Green Bay Packers versus the Dallas Cowboys. Me and Adam are both taking the Packers in that game. The New York Jets versus the Miami Dolphins. So the Buccaneers game, it's a battle between two undefeated teams. But the Jets versus Dolphins game, that's a battle between two 0-3 teams. I have, and Adam as well, has the Dolphins winning that game. And then we have the Cincinnati Bengals versus Bo Nix, Sean Payton, and the Denver Broncos at home in Denver, Mile High Stadium over there. We both took the Broncos to win that game. So what is the one game where we had a disagreement on who we believe is going to be the winner? It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. So Adam has the Philadelphia Eagles coming into Raymond James Stadium and winning that game. And I'm going the opposite way. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning that game. So our overall record is going to come down to who is correct on that game. If the Eagles win, well, Adam takes the lead in our overall head-to-head matchups. If the Buccaneers win, well, I take the lead now heading into week 5 in our head-to-head competition, our overall record. So that's going to be the game that we're all watching, of course, but it's going to determine the overall standings for our current leaderboard entering week number 5. Let's get to our closer now. Fear the Bay Bucs fans, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you haven't done so already, please like, please subscribe. That helps out a lot. Again, that helps the algorithm out. That helps push our content out there to more great Buccaneers fans like yourself. So please do that. Also, if you can, share. If you know a Bucs fan who doesn't know about Fear the Bay yet, share the content with them. Share this game preview with them. And it just helps us continue to grow and grow and grow Fear the Bay as much as we possibly can. I have a lot of fun doing this, so it's great always when we get to have new fans in this fan base. Please subscribe, please like. Again, those things help boost Fear the Bay, get our content out to more great Buccaneers fans like yourself. This is going to be a very, very tough matchup for both teams, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But again, I think the Buccaneers have a strong chance to go 4-0. We'll see what happens every single week. It's a dramatic game. It's a close game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Philadelphia Eagles. So no matter what happens, life goes on. It's not going to end any of these two teams' season. This is a long season. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Of course, for Bucs fans, you want the Buccaneers to win. I think they're going to be able to win in week number 4, but don't overreact if they lose. The season is not over. We're pretty far from the end of the season, especially if the Buccaneers make a deep playoff push. They currently hold the lead in the NFC South, and I don't think that's going to change no matter what happens here, of course. In week number 4. But again, you do want the Buccaneers to win. And we have the return also of Chris Godwin Jr. possibly and Tristan Wirfs. So overall, it's going to be fun no matter the outcome. But especially I know Buccaneers fans want to go into Monday with a victory Monday. So guys, thank you again so much for watching. You guys are the heartbeat of Fear the Bay. I'm your host, Dana Morales, signing out. Bye-bye.